A few weeks ago, I caught myself doing the exact same thing that I'm about to warn you about. Something was bothering me. And instead of saying it, I went quiet. Again. Now, if you're a Christian husband who avoids hard conversations, this one's going to challenge you a little bit. You think that staying quiet will keep the peace. It doesn't. And deep down, I think you already know that. You see, before I got married, I avoided every hard conversation. And my wife, Autumn, showed me what that actually costs and what it also finally looks like to show up. Now, today we're going to talk about why keeping the peace and making peace are two completely different things. I'm going to walk you through the pattern that most Christian husbands fall into, the real damage it causes, and a simple framework that changed how Autumn and I will handle conflict. Now, let me be direct about something. A man who refuses hard conversations is not protecting his marriage. He's avoiding responsibility. And your wife is not looking for a husband who never gets upset. She's looking for someone who is safe enough to be honest. And there's a big difference in that. So let me give it to you straight. Silence is not peace. It's just quiet damage. And when your wife doesn't know what you're thinking or feeling, she's not gonna feel safe. She feels alone. Think about the best conversation that you and your wife ever had after a disagreement. That moment when you both finally said what needed to be said, and then something shifted. That feeling afterwards, that's peace. It's not the absence of conflict, the presence of trust. Not knowing that when something is wrong, you're gonna bring it to the table instead of bearing it. And that's what we're gonna get into today. Let me tell you where this started with me. You see, when I was younger, I was very reactive. If something bothered me, you knew it. I wore it all over my face, and I let it come out in my tone. I didn't really explode on people, but I made it obvious. And that cost me. When I got older, I owned my own business. I had great people working for me. And when I would react with emotion, it didn't matter if I was right. It made me look like a leader who couldn't control himself. And that cost me credibility. It cost me trust. So I did what a lot of men do. I overcorrected. I would go quiet. And if something upset me, I just shut down. I processed internally, and I wouldn't let the emotion out. And honestly, I thought that was growth. I thought I was being the mature one and the steady one. And then I got married. You see, Autumn, and I love this about her, Autumn's a direct communicator. If something's off, she wants to address it right away so it doesn't linger. And that's one of the things I respect most about her. But early on, if something would bother me, I would go quiet. You see, I needed time to figure out if it was worth being upset about. And if it was, then I needed more space to make sure I could talk about it calmly. That felt responsible to me, but it felt like a threat to her. And then she told me something that I'll never forget. She said that she hated walking around her house in her previous marriage, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And she didn't want to live like that again. And when I went quiet, that's exactly how she felt. Not because of anything I said, but because of what I didn't say. I thought I was keeping the peace. I was doing quiet damage and didn't even know it. And I don't think I'm alone in this. I found that a lot of Christian men have some version of the same pattern. Something bothers them, they go quiet. They tell themselves that they're just being patient, self-controlled. They think that avoiding the conversation is the loving thing to do. And on the surface, it looks like it works. No raised voices, no arguments, and no drama. But ask their wives how it actually feels. She feels the distance first. Then comes the guessing. And then the quiet dread of wondering what's wrong. and then being afraid to ask. You see, when you go quiet, your wife doesn't feel protected. She feels alone. And that's not leadership. That's abdication. You can win every argument and lose every relationship. That's the real cost of peacekeeping. You see, peacekeeping says, I will avoid anything that might cause tension. It's passive, self-protective. And while it looks calm on the outside, the people closest to you can feel that wall. Peacemaking is different. It requires more of you, not less. It says, I will walk into the tension and I'll work through it. And that costs something. It takes courage. But it builds the kind of trust that silence never can. Jesus didn't call us to be peacekeepers. He called us to be peacemakers. And there's a reason he made that distinction. So be honest with yourself for a second. Are you actually keeping the peace in your marriage, or are you just keeping it quiet? So let me lay out what I think is really going on here. That silence that you think is protecting your marriage is actually eroding it. You see, trust is not built in the absence of conflict. It's built in how you walk through it together. Let me break that down a little bit. You see, one, silence sends a message you didn't intend. When you go quiet, you think you're pressing pause. You're processing, gathering yourself, being responsible. But your wife is not inside your head, even though we think that they are. She doesn't know that we're processing. She just knows that something shifted, that energy changed, and that you pulled away. And in that gap, she starts filling in the blanks all on her own. What did I do? Is he mad at me? Is there something worse going on? Should I say something or just leave him alone? You meant to press pause. I get it. But she heard radio silence. And radio silence in a marriage doesn't feel like patience. It feels like punishment. 2, avoidance compounds. You see, every conversation you avoid does not disappear. It just grows underground and collects weight. And then one day, something small triggers something big, and everyone's confused about why it blew up. But it was never the small thing, right? It was about the 20 things before that never got said. Avoidance is not a savings account. It's a credit card. And the interest is brutal. Third, your kids are learning from your silence too. Now, this one's hard, but it's important. Your children are watching how you and your wife handle disagreement. They're absorbing it. And I think about my son Jameson with this. He's young right now. He's about to turn 3. But he won't always be. And when he sees how his dad handles tension at home, that becomes his blueprint. And when I go quiet, every time something's hard, that lesson isn't patience. That lesson is that conflict is something to run from. That hard conversations are dangerous. And the safe move is to shut down. And if you keep doing this, you're not teaching your son patience. You're teaching him to hide. And that model follows them into their friendships, their future marriages, and their own homes. And the generational pattern that we're all trying to break, that's part of it. Now, there is a standard for this, and it's simple. Speak the truth in love, not in anger, where truth becomes a weapon, not in silence, where truth gets buried, in love. That takes real courage. It means choosing to walk toward the hard conversations because the relationship matters more than your comfort. Matthew 18 actually gives us the model. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. Go to them. Direct, private, personal. It skips over the avoidance, and it doesn't leave room for pretending it didn't happen. And if that applies to a brother in faith, how much more does it apply to the woman that you made a covenant with? Presence beats performance every single time, and especially in your marriage. All right, so what do we actually do about this? Let me give you the thing that changed my marriage, okay? See, our pastor gave us this during our premarital counseling, and honestly, it was the best communication advice we've ever gotten. It went like this. When something bothers you and you need space to process, that's fine. Take the space. But you owe your wife 3 things before you go quiet. First, name what it's not about. If the thing bothering you has nothing to do with her, say that out loud. Because if you go quiet without context, she's going to assume it's about her. And that's not fair to her. Second, name what it is about. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just give her enough to hold on to. Something like, look, something happened at work today and I'm still processing. Or I'm frustrated about something and I want to talk about it, but I need a little time to think it through. That one sentence can change everything. She goes from guessing to knowing a little bit more. And third, give her a timeline. Don't just say, I need some time. That's a little too vague. Say, can we talk about it tomorrow night after dinner? That gives her a win. That way she's not guessing. She's not walking on eggshells. She knows the conversation is coming and she can breathe a little bit. Just 3 steps. Name what it's not, name what it is, and then set a time. I used this recently. Something was going on here at my business and it was weighing on me pretty heavily. And I made sure that Autumn knew 3 things. It wasn't about her. It was a work situation that I was still working through, and that we would talk about it later that night. That way, she wasn't carrying the weight that wasn't hers. She wasn't sitting at work wondering what she did wrong. She could trust the process because I gave her something to hold on to. Look, we're not perfect at this, but it's the main reason that we have not had a single fight in our marriage. So here's what I want you to do this week. Think of one conversation that you've been avoiding with your wife. You know which one it is, probably. You've been telling yourself, it's not a big deal, or it's not worth the conflict, or you'll get to it eventually. This week, bring it to the table. Use that framework. Name it, own your part, set a time. You don't need to have the whole conversation figured out. You just need to stop avoiding it. That's the first step. The rest will get easier once you start. Now imagine what would happen if more Christian husbands had one honest conversation this week. Not a confrontation, not a blow up, just one calm, honest conversation about something that's been sitting under the surface. Think about how many marriages would shift. Not because the husband became louder, but because he became more present and more honest, more trustworthy in the hard times. And that's the kind of man that I want to help build here in this community. Not loud, not passive, but present. A man whose wife does not have to wonder what he's thinking. A man whose kids see what it looks like to walk through the hard things instead of walking away from them. One day your kids are going to be grown, and your wife's going to remember whether you were present or passive when things got hard. Peacemaker, not peacekeeper. Silence isn't peace. It's just quiet damage. And the good news, you can stop doing it this week. So here's the one thing I want you to take away from this. Silence isn't peace. It's just quiet damage. And the longer it goes on, the more it starves the trust your marriage needs. Drop a comment and tell me what's one conversation that you've been putting off. Don't share details. I don't need those. Just type, I've been avoiding this. That's enough. Let that be the first step. And if this hits home, subscribe to the channel. I put out a new video every week for Christian dads who want to lead with calm, confident strength. And next week, I'm going to give you the exact phrases that I use to set boundaries without sounding angry or weak. I'll see you then.